This is a great privilege. And yes, okay, so I'm 113. Some of you may know me from this project called Terraforms, the studio Math Castles. It's a dense iceberg of thinking on Ethereum. Today, I want to talk about a notion of third eras, and I'm going to talk about two. And this is just improvisationally as I pace around the living room and take care of the cat. Third era one. I believe as of March this year, we entered a third era in the culture and technological possibility space of crypto. And so it goes, in my mind, it goes Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then this third era. And there's many terms. I think modular could be a good term, right? So maybe this could be seen as the modular era. Well, what does this mean? Okay, as an artist in 2014, considering this medium, I looked at Ethereum and it tells me it's a world computer. And it's very interesting. It's like Bitcoin, but rather than strictly doing, like this one app of value through UXTOs or UTXO, yeah. So it's now computer instructions, which you could have done before. You could have done smoke signal encoding of, and things like this through Counterparty, et cetera, et cetera. But what Ethereum does is it gives you this kind of general purpose security, in a sense, for like arbitrary, very small computer programs. And but in my brain, I'm like, okay, so now my art practice has to become, it's like, what kind of world computer is this? Is it like a graphing calculator or a Game Boy? I can't really run intense programs on this. But what just happened in March is that changed, right? So many artists, I think this lineage of Larva Labs, for example, taking seriously the constraints of Ethereum and then kind of exploring some possibilities there. This is very smart, and Terraforms also represents this kind of taking very seriously the constraints of Ethereum with an artistic practice. But now, in a very dizzying and kind of gigantic way, the potential for those constraints has just been lifted. And I think it really, this year, the first quarter of this year represents the lift of that. So things like, blob storage and Dankun and these kinds of, and really just this whole ecology, it's art supplies, okay? It's time for artists to take seriously, you have to start dealing with these terms like L2s, right? Or roll-ups, but then you have to just melt them down. Like, you want to understand them rigorously. You don't want to be one of the charlatans who's saying something is an L2 and it's not, and this kind of thing. But you want to understand them as deeply and thoroughly as you possibly can technologically. The unique, specific technological affordances of this era of art supplies, right? And then as an artist, kind of seeking to discover or invent previously impossible, entirely new things in the context of these new affordances. That, in my opinion, can be one of the roles or callings of this role of artist. And crypto, this culture where art and money and computers and the internet have been kind of bursting in extremely exciting new ways, like a kind of artistic opportunity, unlike anything I've seen in my lifetime as a computing artist. One who takes these constraints seriously might have an opportunity to, one, make drastically radical new kinds of art, to do so natively on the internet. So I'm currently geolocated in a city called New York, but as I understand it, I'm talking to you through the internet. And the internet is the art city, and it has been for 30 years, and you know it. So just throw your life out of that airplane already. Throw yourself into that volcano. Take the internet more seriously already. I don't take the internet and computers seriously enough, is the feeling I continue to find my life intensified into. And so it's not New York, it's not Berlin. These are potent culture hubs, but the art city of our lifetime so far, in my opinion, is the internet. And so this internet of value claim or proposition from the cryptocurrency culture, right, is now, like I'm trying to say, the lid is getting blown off this notion of, let's say, a world computer, or, I'm trying to talk about this third era, right? You go from Bitcoin to Ethereum to this third era. And well, what is it? What's so different about it? Well, there's this new kit of parts, okay? So through these patterns like rollups that you want to learn, but then dissolve, well, what are they made of? Okay, so you need to start thinking about things like, zero knowledge crypto gadgets, ZK, right? Oh, that sounds very scary and intimidating. Aha, it is not. Oh, that sounds very mathy and esoteric. It won't be in 10 years when there's a very good chance. So ZK is a potentially world restructuring technology. I'm not saying that I know for sure that ZK will utterly restructure the world out from underneath us, but it's got all the kind of hallmarks of one that credibly could. And yes, there will be all kinds of nonsense threads and overzealous pronunciations of blah, blah, blah. But what this means also is there will be waves of funding and waves of kind of interest and belief. And artists have actually not just a professional opportunity, but a duty, because it is a world restructuring technology. I for myself, these things I say, they're universally true, but only local to me. So if I'm saying artists have a duty, I'm just telling you about my personal practice, right? If this injunction doesn't serve you, leave it at the door. No problem, right? But well, what's ZK? Well, that has something to do with privacy, right? Well, yes, it can involve, I'd say, like compositions that think about knowledge asymmetry. Oh, that sounds so esoteric. Why would an artist do that? I don't know. How about Shakespeare? A dramatic irony, right? How about a card game where or okay, in the case of the stage, like I know that the person on stage doesn't know that the other person knows, right? And so it's not necessarily secrecy and privacy, but composable information asymmetry in a way that's kind of too big for me to talk about. I can't put a little bow on it. I think it's a gigantic art and meaning, site of art and meaning. And so that technology has appeared kind of in the midst of this. Okay, so simultaneously, it has this other incredible property, which is, sometimes people call it compression. I'm not sure if that mental model is the best, but the point being, effectively, you've built an abstraction of a computer in a new context, and you get this side effect. And so what am I saying here? When one makes a program on top of this kind of ZK art supply stack, you get this second property that even if the program takes a really long time to run, or is a really intense, complicated program, it becomes cryptographically, mathematically, verifiable that, for example, for a given set of inputs, an output was produced. So I'm talking kind of, I sound like I'm weaving all over the place, but if you recall what I said, in 2014, Ethereum appears. And it says, well, it's a world computer. And I say, that's silly. What kind of computer is this? It's a Game Boy. So and I think of it maybe like a city. So, okay, I live in the Game Boy city. I live in a graphing calculator city. Cool. But so then I'm backed into this constraint of the minimal kinds of programs. Like, okay, by the way, the medium is computer. So, the computer program. Sorry, Ethereum is a computer. Sometimes I call it, if you look at this tweet I have, if you go to 0x113d on Twitter, you can find, there's a little picture. I think of Ethereum kind of like a sculpture garden, but the sculptures are systems or computer programs. And as an artist, crypto has, you're supposed to hiss or have these kinds of like culture signals. They're not even opinions. You're supposed to say Ethereum is bad or ugly. I live in a culture city. That's uncool to my friends or something, or, oh, crypto, it's just, no. Clear your mind. Okay, for the first time in human history, to my knowledge, there's a computer that's running, and it's okay, let's get it off over my headphones. There's a computer that's running. For the first time in human history, there's a computer that's running in public, and anyone can read from it or pay to write to it. And I personally believe it's going to outlive me. I could be wrong about that, but there's a credible belief of durability. And so if I take it very seriously and kind of assume that there's a very strong chance that this computer outlives me, it feels like I'm going to the botanical garden, but for computer programs in the art city, right? You can put a computer program that's a kind of sculpture or a kind of artwork in a different medium or context than perhaps the world is ready for right now, but it will inevitably arrive at. And that's where a system, and so it's a live running computer program. So Terraform's this project, it represents a runtime object artwork, sometimes I tried to call it. And by that, I mean, it's a program that's just always running. It's not you download a program and run it somewhere else. It's running, it's already installed. It's installed in the Game Boy City. It's installed on the sculpture garden for, that's gonna presumably or quite possibly could run beyond my lifetime. Okay, well, why am I talking about all this other stuff? Or what am I saying, a third era? Well, what we're seeing is these kinds of new technological patterns, and it seems like infrastructure, it seems like things artists shouldn't think about. But wouldn't you like to go back to 2015 and take Ethereum seriously and think about that, right? Because it was hard to work with, it was technical, all these things. But if you had just taken it seriously, then you'd be heralded as visionary and ahead of your time, and yada yada. And it's almost formulaic in a way, how kind of obvious in a way, almost boring it is. So you don't want to just be doing checkbox formalisms or first post gestures with this. The goal or duty is then to do real work. So you have to immerse in this art supply, these tech stacks, dissolve what people think they are, invert things, flip them upside down, do things that are broken, think the new kinds of thoughts that this unique set of materials affords, and then make a project worth doing. You don't want, in my opinion anyway, like, rather than just kind of being a CNET post or like, oh, it's great because it uses infrastructure ahead of other people and it's a first post. What's real serious art? And I don't even mean in the politics or culture of some traditional fine art world's logic. I mean, what are the most important pressing matters on Earth? And how could artists respond to them using the very new and potent art supplies of this third era? So again, well, what are we talking about? We're talking about these patterns like roll-ups. So this term art chains, for example, right? The idea, plenty have said this, a blockchain should be thought of as lightly as a smart contract. Smart contract is a terrible term, but a computer program. And so suddenly, what I'm trying to tell you is the sculpture garden, the Game Boy City, you can now fly UFOs around. Okay, you can fly, it's actually finally a world computer. And these patterns are young, right? They're not all perfect. They're not all currently manifesting as extremely decentralized, but there's a lot of good long-term actors. And so the way I think of it is, you've got things like, again, just the uses of ZK. Then we could get even more. So if these are terms that are unfamiliar with you, spend sometime in the next week, just sit down at your computer or message me, or join Math Castle's Discord. I'll talk to you and try to help people navigate it. But things like fully homomorphic encryption, right? So being able to do computation on data that remains secret, or things like multi-party computation, right? Or this phrase that Guilty Gyoza and myself kicked around, simulation markets. This idea that through the ability to compose, this is just going to go too far. Anyway, come find me later. So through all this, suddenly, okay, I know I'm talking all these words, maybe sometimes they're unfamiliar. It's kind of, so just for a second, hear this. Computing art now has a market. There's a place for computer artists now, right? And this idea of world computer, arbitrary computer programs, there's a place for me. There wasn't a place for someone like me before. You could try to play the politics games of the traditional art world that would kind of, I always say, I might as well just get a job at a paper mill. Spend all your life energy sinking your consciousness into a circuit, that just devalue, takes away the time or intensity of what you need to be thinking about. And by the way, there's still these weird hierarchies. Like, these people, just on the whole, in a macro, just still are not. These institutions are not fit vessels for surfing, computing, and the internet as they dissolve civilization, or like recurringly, they're not honoring what their brands, their legacies, their reputation should be on that particular matter. And so the artists just have to kind of route around. Eventually, these institutions will develop. I don't want these institutions to go away. They're very important. They do great work in many facets, but they're not the leaders. You're the leader. You're the one, you person listening to this, who understands that say these things are other kinds of opinions that maybe are equivalently heretical, but maybe different. Just do it already. Just make the work. And try to make the good work, and try to make work that you think responds to the condition we're in. Where So okay, wait. So let's see. There's three eras I'm trying to talk about here. Where did the paper go? Okay. Okay, right. So maybe another way to frame it. Maybe net art, post-internet art, and then this third era of art. And so the third era of art would, to me, represent artists who take the internet seriously as the main site for culture and for art, It's the art city. More serious than like it's just more important than the ones that are conventionally still somehow 30 years later basically believed to be, most implicated in art. Also, there's money. So you can live, you can eat food. You don't have to play Mr. Beast games where you convert Web 2 points through a non-existent Uniswap of who knows what kinds of like recommendation, whatever the post-internet artists got stuck in, which was how do I eat food, right? The gallery system still doesn't make stars. It doesn't care about me. The competition is brutal. It doesn't understand anything that's going on here. And then monetizing Web 2, as we all know, or whatever. So, but now you don't have to do that anymore. There's an internet of value or an internet of money. And to me, things like the credible durability and longevity of Ethereum, Ethereum is like a cultural settlement layer, right? It's a bedrock that you can grapple onto, and then incredible works in it. And in my opinion, things like terraforms, I'd say, autoglyphs is certainly for me, it's a bedrock. And because of their stability, credible longevity, they're projects that exist for a reason. Like they have an artistic vision or a purpose. They have new things to say technologically and culturally. And so they're going to stick around. They're potentially art historic objects. Let's talk autoglyphs anyway. Other people can figure out terraforms, but and so because of this, you get this kind of like, I think of it like it's a Game Boy city, and it's a really firm bedrock that you can build a career or an empire or new art worlds, right? And there will be people, whether you do this or not, we're going to come do this. There are already a couple of us. And we're not going to follow the orthodoxies of what you're going to tell us, art's supposed to be. And because this comes from this trading culture, there's all these distractions, but just do your work. Like set your eyes. If you see where things are going to go, just go there already. So the world will catch up to you. And this place is so overflowing with money. It seems, I'm just hand waving here, but I think artists have a credible shot at having a living. And I think the artists who eventually do over time truly important art historic work that cut open radical new ways of seeing. And in computing, there's just so much. Computing, it's the most neglected thing on earth, right? Everywhere around you, it looks like people are super glued to what it purports to be a computer, an iPhone. But I'm telling you, the medium of computing is foremost systems. It's not pictures. It's not audio and video. Go read Marshall McLuhan, via Alan Kay. We don't have the medium of computing yet. We're so early, right? It's this gigantic kind of greenfield, and artists have ceded this to things like Silicon Valley capitalism. And I'm not anti-Silicon Valley capitalism. I'm saying a monopoly on the thing that dissolves society, while artists are kind of often twiddling their thumbs, claiming to make critical interventions, but actually and it's not anybody's fault that, I'm not blaming people here. It's this kind of malnourishment or just it's discourse that's the problem. So I'm just trying to force this kind of other mode of discourse onto this possibility space. And so to me, this third era, from Bitcoin to Ethereum to things that can settle to Ethereum or things like it, right? And things like modular patterns that so you'll get arbitrary new runtimes that can, so this idea of a chain, like people will have this kind of anyway, so you could think this term art chains is a good place to put your feet down and then keep going, right? So new computer programs, new runtimes, networks that express cryptoeconomic patterns that can make radical new artworks that can coordinate things. I was going to talk about a bunch more like this. I think we should really talk right now maybe about like things like Terra Zero, or I was going to talk about Brad Trammell's work, or there was another I wanted to anyway, my brain's going, and I think I'm at time. So if anyone random darknet shopper. There have been these other intersections of art and crypto. Forget about NFTs. Okay, you're going to want probably some very long-term tradable durable object, a unit, something, right? Something that people can collect or interact with, and it lives in an incredibly durable way. But also look before NFTs. There's a history of artists who were thinking about intersections of art and crypto that I think could be a vibrant renewal, as these art supplies, which are currently intimidating, they sound esoteric, but over the next 5 years, these patterns will become more widespread. People are going to try to make them work, and there'll be kind of easier ways for artists to conceive of them. So now is still a really good time to start processing this. Even if you just participate in this culture, you want to understand this technology. And to me, it's so obviously this, like, for anyone interested in art and something proximate to crypto, it's just how could you not like get absolutely rabbit holed by this new suite of art supplies that yeah. So I think I'm at time, so I should probably just stop. But